in the basement, no longer alone, with my homegirl Terez on the microphone. Music, politics, or just chatting it up. Brunch in the basement, see that's what's up. You never know who might run through. Legendary artist or someone brand new. You miss a lot when you miss one day. At least that's what I heard somebody say. But it doesn't really matter what whoever says. It's always a good show with JaVonne and Terez. Yeah. Brunch in the basement with JaVonne and Terez. Yeah. Let's see who we got today or what we doing today or whatever it is, it's gonna be good. Woo!
I love you all so much.
Just whatever the first thing that
Adam and Eve.
we can see you now.
I know, and thank God.
Yeah. That's generally the response we get from everybody, but we keep it clean. It's Joy Rankin. Yes.
How you doing?
I know how I'm doing. Y'all know how I'm doing. So first of all, y'all grown for real. Y'all threw the house music on. I got some of my house heads checking this out, and we're like, "Wait, what? They've been doing this how long now? What? Since Saturday?
Yeah.
What's going on? We didn't have what."
I gotta slip it in there when I can, Joy. You know what I'm saying? Every now and then I gotta slip in a little house, a little something.
This is definitely not top 40.
Yeah, you know, this is powerful. So let me just say that I am so grateful to you, cousin Terez. I won't use the other name right now. I just use Terez for now. JaVonne and I had that story already, that talk. And this is wow. This is what it is. This is what the people are waiting for. We're hungry. We've been hungry, and you've been feeding us. So you know, we get excited when we got some good cooks in the kitchen in the back.
Welcome.
So, yeah. So grateful for that. How long y'all been doing this? Let me start my interview with y'all. What is this? What's going on here?
You can go after us because there's so many. I don't get an opportunity to have family and someone I absolutely adore and have adored you, Joy, since I was a little bitty thing. Okay. So like I said, this was my first big sister in my head. When I was her big sister, she was my big sister rather, before she was a big sister. Right. For real. At least to a young lady. She always had Andre. Like, you know, shout out to Andre, to Aisha, to Gail, to actually Reggie, like all of the crew, you know, that just made us all, like Sheila, all of them, you know, just shout out to everybody. I know I didn't miss too many of them coming in the introduction, but you know, just Joy, you have always been our shiro, you know, growing up. And so can we talk about the Diggable Library and then work our way back? Where do you want to start?
First, I want to start with the basement. So all of these stories that Terez is sharing with you, they started in the basement.
All right.
Well, literally in the basement. So, you know, I'm excited to know that all of them, for everybody that's on now and listening, we got plenty basement stories. So I'm going to start with that. So I come to this basement standing on the shoulders and definitely prepared by so many who, you know, taught me in the basement and then sent me out of the basement. So, you know, I'll start with that. You know, it's the Diggable Library Lounge. So there is a backstory how that got birthed. I think for the most part, I want to start with no matter what your role and your position or what livelihood you've been walking in for many years and for a few minutes, you will, or if you haven't already been, the Colin Kaepernick of your profession. I have to say that first. Because I think when you make those kinds of stance and when you stand on something that you really believe is the right thing to do, and you see so much unravel because you've done what you knew in spirit, it was the right thing to do. It's exciting to know that something else is being birthed. People tell you that all the time, and you just think it comes out of a great book. You know, this is going to cause this other great thing. You're like, yeah, right. And it happens to you. And so Diggable Library Lounge became the space that I knew I had to create so that Black people in particular were able to navigate in libraries in a way that they never usually can, because we don't talk about codes in every profession as well. A lot of code switching. So for me, thankfully, to have had the role of leadership at the top tier of libraries, I was able to get inside and see some stuff that was like, oh, this what they doing to us? Yeah, these keys are important. So
can you give us a little specific on that?
Yeah, so let me straighten up a little bit and get we were gonna put all that at the end of the night.
Oh no, we get it in. We only got an hour. Yes.
Okay, it's important to go in. So, to become a director in a library says a lot, because it says a lot to the community and it says a lot about the people who elect you to come on board. And so you have one group of people who are in total agreement that you should be the voice for a community that's diverse, that looks different, that has a little bit of everybody. But then when you're placed and planted in those spaces and you're working among the Karens, and you're working among the writers, and you're working among very quiet, this quiet spirit and energy that's there to not really support the whole cause of bringing everybody in, but in some way making sure it has keys to a room it never really wants you to go in. So, that to me was important, because I was never the person that fought for these kind of roles and positions. As a matter of fact, when I got there, I was like, look, I don't want to be the Rosa Parks of libraries. I just want to do this job and do it well. I just want to be the director. I want to show how the library can be a spirit outside of the building and show how it needs to really include everybody. And I said the code word. You know what, staff? I feel like we should take an opportunity to really look at the entire community. So as we're hiring, that's a buzzword, that's a code word. As we're hiring, let's start selecting people who also look like the people of the community. And the invisible clutches got snatched. And how could she say that? She was a problem when she came in with that afro. I do a lot of manipulating with my mane, and I go in, because sometimes it's what you got to do to get to the spaces that you're called to really do the work. And so, sometimes I'm in tears, like, I gotta pull my hair back. I gotta do something just to get through the interview. Anyway, so that said, once you release more of yourself in those spaces, people get scared of you because you're never trying to impact the community in a way that language has just never been used. So in libraries, and they're not all libraries, let me be correct in saying that, because I've been in several libraries and I've been a director in two different libraries, and had two very different communities and audiences. And, when I'm working with people that look like me, there could be some stuff that happens there as well. So I'm not going to in some way act like that's you won't have those challenges. But when Black people punch you in the stomach, it looks and feels very different than white people punching you and slapping you. It's two different hits. I could take family hits. I eat those. We all have. Maybe come back to the family reunion and forget whatever. Because I'm eating your mac and cheese, and you eat my collard greens. Whatever it is we going to do. Right. Punching that other slap, and especially if you're in a profession that nobody in your family has really been in and in your life has really been in those spaces, you're navigating on your own. I can go to an aunt that used to be a director of the, or a uncle that used to run the library systems of whatever county. I don't really have those spaces. So, when we go in those areas, and there's many areas, so it's not just libraries, but that just happens to be, a space that I have navigated for a lot of years. So I've been, library director, but also ran school systems, library programs in Atlanta. And so I get to see what happens on the educational front through libraries, and I get to see what happens in the public domain in libraries, and I also get to see a little bit of what happens in academic libraries. So they are a key, and Diggable Library Lounge, again, was birthed and still being guided, so that I think it's important that a voice is created so that when we go into it, it speaks to us in a way that those institutions just don't speak to us. They don't really regard us in those ways. I mean, everybody's trying their best to figure it out now, especially in the wake of everything going on. Even as I'm talking now, I sometimes like to stop myself because it's like, what does that mean with everything else we are watching and we are feeling and we are experiencing? You know, is your work meaningful to engage with what we really need to be focused on? So, I think, you know, just being clear of distractions. So even, you know, being in the office and you going to bat with somebody over something stupid like, you know, I know you came here and took this out the break room and now that's a debate. Like we gonna fight about this? Distraction for what's really out there. So when I indicated, you know, we're gonna look at some brown people and some Black folk, you know, to look at some of these roles in these positions, that became, you know, the beginning of taking what I had thought was a career path. And they didn't take it. Let me rephrase that. It wasn't take it. It was an elevation. You don't know that at the time. You're like, oh my God, my salary, my kid, my this, that. And then you don't know there's so many levels. It's not just taken away because you get ready to do something. It's taken away because it could be affecting your children. Because now we move to communities that don't want us there. You know, so that we can get them in right schools, or I gotta live out here to work out here. Or now I gotta put my kid in an office for 5 hours so I go to a meeting. You know, all the things that we do, and you have no idea how that's impacting your entire family, your entire foundation.
I think it's amazing in and of itself, because once upon a time, you know, and first let me just give a shout out to Gail Riddick. I said her name and then I see her face. I see her comment pop up. I think it's amazing because I had to remind folks, once upon a time, it was illegal to educate us. It was illegal for us to read. You know, when they found out slaves was reading, it was like, wait a second, we had to pretend we weren't. So I know, you know, and then like even coming up when I was younger, and I told this story to Jane Elliott, in fact, when she was on the show talking to us, you know, I had to correct a teacher because my mother taught me that Columbus didn't discover Duke. He didn't discover shit. And here we have in this book I'm reading, she'll be back. In this book that I'm reading, it says how Columbus, and we were being tested on this, Joy. We were being tested that, and we had the answer to the question was, yes, Columbus discovered America. And that was in conflict. You know, I said, well, my mother told me, no, he didn't. And I'm raising my hand. And you know how, you remember how small my voice was then, you know, that was, you know, we weren't challenging the elders, and, you know, we were seen and not heard generation, and we didn't, you know, they didn't mix us with the adult conversations, you know. So I'm raising my hand and I'm saying, well, you know, my mother didn't teach me that. She said, and I got taken out that class in a very aggressive, traumatic way. You know, thank God they called my mother, you know, because at that point, I remember it was Ludlam School. Yeah, shout out to Ludlam. But once upon a time, you know, it just wasn't right. Anything after that. I'm just glad that she came and got me and then told me how to pick and choose what I choose to share. And she taught me the difference between taking a test and it being the real information. And it was all what she didn't teach me, though, was that it wasn't for me to say that out loud.
And good for her for saying that.
At that point, you know, but I was still conflicted. I was conflicted for a minute because I'm like, well, if this is the truth, why aren't they teaching us that? That came in Ludlam School, Joy. So, and I know that having, you know, books are an amazing thing, and books are, you know, they're powerful because they're a record of something, and it's just something that, you know, our kids, like I need to pick up a book. If I had children, I have no biological children, although I say I have 30 children, but I have no biological children. And I'm thinking like if I had books to share things with them with our faces on the cover and our story, you know, because we didn't start with no damn slavery, you know, but that's where it starts for us. Yeah. If I picked up a book when I was a kid that said kings and queens and showed us where we came from and talked about, you know, the slave trade and things like that in ways that didn't benefit, you know, the folks that did it, where would our lives and where would the education, not just for us, but for other people to understand, you know? So here you are at a library, which is a gateway for that kind of stuff, you know, like how difficult, or what was, when you first entered the library system, what kind of books were you seeing that were available to us then versus, you know?
Okay, I want to pick up where you just, Terez, everybody that's here, Terez, and she tells that cute little story she just told about how she's quiet and she's just kind of laid back and raising her hand. That wasn't her as a kid either. And that's why I knew, it was like, she's different. It's gonna go. So she had an oldness about her. I often said, do I have to watch her? Because I don't think she's going to listen to me. Those questions she's asking. That's a backstory. Because it's important to talk about a couple of things. I curate a lot of stuff. So there's a special collection that I'm working on at the Roosevelt Public Library. Shout out to Roosevelt. The collection that I'm working on belonged to the first chair of the Africana Studies Department for Nassau Community College. His name was Kenneth Jenkins. And so he has a collection that I've been just delving into and breaking up and putting in different places. So today I've listened to a recording that he had, because he has, I can't even begin to tell you the volume of his collection. It will be produced and it will be available soon. So something I was listening today, and it was Stokely Carmichael's recording of Free Huey. So I said, let me just listen to a few minutes. Let me just drop something. Let me drop the stuff today. See how it bubbles up, how it shows up in the basement, right? And one of the things that he commented about was schools are supposed to do two things. They either take our kids and prepare them for the communities they already live in. So that means whatever roles and positions and how are they sustained in the communities they are in? Schools are supposed to prepare them to do that. And schools can also, if they're not doing that, then they should be helping to change their minds to come out to make the community better. And that stuck out to me because he used examples of who was in the community, and he used what felt like, a time of the 70s. And he mentioned pastors and pimps and, street dudes, whatever it was, he was saying, how are you preparing kids when they go to school to come back into those spaces? What will they be better at? Whatever. And that stuck out. And I said, okay, if you're going to really unfold and unpack education, looking at how does it impact where you live and how you engage with the people around you as an adult. So when you're a young person and you have no voice, and that's what we're watching. Young people have absolutely no voice in those decisions that's made for them. You have to learn X, Y, and Z. And if you can't reverberate that back to me, I'm giving you an F. When I'm in the classroom, I usually say to students, let me start out by telling you, I'm teaching who you are 10 years from now. So if you 8, think about that. I'm not talking to you who you are right now. This is an 8-year, this is a 10-year jump. And then I have to talk, I don't talk in code, but I have to indicate to students, this is what they want you to repeat. And then it's the truth. Or try to engage them in thinking of the process of, that doesn't make any sense. And it's okay to let kids know that doesn't make any sense, because you have to help develop that gut for them. We are such feeders right now. We don't let our kids stumble. We don't let them get hurt. We don't let them get in trouble. We'll get on them, but we don't let them go in the world where they really get that lesson. And so, if you teach them, they can get in a classroom and knowing their teacher don't know what they're talking about. I have pretty interesting sons. They have very vast, different interests in life. But one thing was for sure, they have in some way conveyed to me, you are letting them kill us. Intellectually and academically. So, even watching those spaces, there are people who are listening and they know they have and you're putting them in schools that will never recognize that brilliance. And even when you fight and bring it to their attention and say, hey, well, he got this grade or that grade, and what's happening with him getting in this gifted program? Because they don't fight for our kids to get gifted program.
Tell me about it.
Make sure they fight to get us in the special ed program. And the state and the school gets the same amount of money, whether your kid is in gifted or special ed. So it's all of those unearthings. When you're showing up in spaces when you know you can get not just the keys to the room, because get in the room and do what? But it's what you get. Like if I get this information, am I going to just hold this to myself? Well, when do I get to go out and say, guess what I found, y'all? And I think all of us do that. Because we have friends that, you know, they're pretty savvy when it comes to finding information, telling you what to call, and girl, I can show you how you can get, you know, and you don't got to pay your rent for 18 months or what, you know, it's a bunch of stuff that we know and we do it without question. We just dole out our goodies because that's just how we are in spirit. We just stay here and then we go, oh, I should have asked for money for that. You know, that's a whole nother conversation. But
now you're singing my song.
So even with books, I've been working with young people with books. That was my first profession. I was a children's librarian. And the first time I was at work, and a patron came in, and I'm one of those people, we going all out. You're not leaving here till you have everything you need, and I need to know, I can look you in your eye, I can tell you know what you got.
Right.
So I had a patron come in and ask for a book, and they didn't have it on the children's side. I said, wait, these same call numbers work on the adult side. Let's go see if it has it there. So I run on that side of the library and I'm going through, and they don't have the person. No, they do have the person's book that they want, but right next to it was 10 little niggas. What is this?
Whoa.
Guys, you know Agatha Christie, right? And then there was that book was first titled 10 Little Niggas. But we'll talk about that later maybe because I work in the collection that I do. It's not that it's pretty special, but because this gentleman, thankfully, he was a holder of like a container of all kinds of information and books and material. And before I got to his collection, remember, I had just started my job as a children's librarian and found that book and, you know, graciously, what I thought went to the head of my department. Look what I found. This is horrible, right? This should be taken off the shelf. She was looking like, you're not going to last here long, lady.
Wow. Wow.
And I actually, you know, I was the first Black librarian at that library in Long Island. And I was let go for a friend who I got a job there, a young Jewish girl. They gave her my job and I had to take them to court. Yeah, so that was astounding. That's a turning point for me at that particular, you know, in that particular space. Fast forward years later, I became a director at a library in that same community, not the same community, but out in Suffolk County. And I had to go there for an event, like a meeting, a quarterly meeting. And I was stepping back in that same building as a director and not the children's librarian that they fired years and years and years ago. Yeah, that was bittersweet. That was nice.
So you would think that a library would be culturally diverse, you know, to represent not only the community but what the information that's held in it. Am I being naive to even say that?
Oh,
you know what? I think in a culturally diverse land, the library would be culturally diverse, but in America, the libraries are going to be probably more than likely reflective of the culture and the people of the land. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. I just want to plug in my charger. I'm sorry. It's just you plug in. This happens.
Plug away.
We'll do a music break.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you see the running chat in the comment section to your right of the screen? You don't see it?
I do. No, I don't see it.
Okay, it's a are you on private chat? It's a private chat and it's comments. If you switch over to the comment side, you can see all of the running chat.
Oh, am I going to want to do that?
Well, it looks like a lot of your family, people who know you and love you,
beautiful people,
commenting.
Yeah.
as well
So,
as some people who are just getting to know you right now.
that's nice. That's good to know. I mean, again, all those spaces that we show up in, because we show up in the spaces that we show up in. We bring all of those experiences with us. We don't know that. They just happen to become tools in a toolkit. And, stuff is unfolding. You're like, I think I got something that will power me up with this, this blade or this, whatever it is that needs to be taken out for the journey at the time. So libraries are very interested in that. They have been, it's been not a place of contention, but yes, and at the same time, a place of contention. See, for a minute, I was really locked in on sundown towns. I think you and I talked about that, Terez. And if anybody's familiar with sundown towns, those were towns that openly indicated if you were Black, you needed to be out of that town by a certain time. And then there's like Anna, I think it's Anna, Illinois, and it's Ain't No Niggas Allowed or something. And I'm a big Lovecraft country fan. And so when that episode came on and they told me, hey, it's a sundown town, you got that's real. That wasn't just made up for the show. That's why I love this show so much, because they put so many elements of truth. So I always think of things like whose story isn't being heard here. That's what I'm always looking for. So I do other things in other spaces, but in sundown towns, I started thinking, well, what was the library's role in a town where everybody had to be out by? They can't be walking in that town. That still happens. We don't talk about it, but there's communities, Terez on Long Island. You can't be in Garden City. They'll drive you back to the brown side of that line. And that happens everywhere. I don't think that just stopped. It's how we talk about it and how we like, well, you're not supposed to be over there, and I don't know why you expected somebody to tell you that. It's almost like that you ain't supposed to go nowhere near. And nobody will tell you that. You see what can happen. You see what happened to so and so. So we, in the same way, it's like, so we're not talking about this. So library.
Are there any books or because a legacy strategist? Now that's huge in my brain. A legacy strategy for the Destination Design School.
Okay.
Can we talk about what a legacy strategist is? Because that seems like if I had to write about like legacy, like the word alone says so much. But tell us what it is for you.
I think I felt the same way when I had to create. Like, what you want me to call myself? I don't think the people I know, or even myself, will understand that just hearing it. So that's really an easy space to describe for me, and it will be for you now. So legacies for me are not just people, but a legacy can be an experience. A legacy can just be something that took place, and a couple of people were important to making that happen. So it becomes a legacy. So I work for a school that has no walls. So it's a design school that really looks at spaces where our stories are, and we unpack them and we tell them in a way that people walk away saying, oh, we had no idea that took place, in 1925. And, these people in this area were impacted to this degree. So right now, even though the Destination Design School is the name of the umbrella school itself, the curriculum we're working on right now is called Digging Du Bois. And so what we've done is went back to the Black Belt South, that runs through 11 states. But in the state of Georgia, it's a 200-mile trek. So we've identified plantations that ran through Georgia, because they run through the 11 states, and it was known as the Black Belt South. So so it wasn't the Black Belt South it's almost known by two things: the soil and also the presence of Black people. It was called the Gold Coast because that's where plantation life thrived. And in that same trajectory, where that same area of plantation life thriving is now an impoverished area where Black people still live in those same spaces that they never migrated away from. So the Digging Du Bois project is looking just at the Georgia portion of the trail and following all the important places that W.E.B. Du Bois talks about in the first Black folks. Wow. Because that's where he started, and he actually got, he went to these different points in Georgia to guide him in the writing of that book. So I work with a sister named Unica Roger Sips, and she actually is the founder of this particular project. And I've come on board to tell the untapped and hidden stories that took place along that 200-mile trek. So start identifying which churches along the track, how did they play a part? Any kind of, with schools, it's almost like it's not an underground railroad, but along that track, and it's an actual walking track, and it's an actual track that people can actually at some point get on, and we'll be showing people the pivotal things and the most important things that we think are the standout in regards to W.E.B. Du Bois's work along that particular track. So in that case, I'm a legacy strategist. So I try to show them, listen, based on his book or based on some history here, these people or this particular group of people in this time frame did X, Y, and Z to make sure people got access to food and water. Or they went through some time when, the education it's still there. I mean, all the different plights and challenges are still along that trek. Like I said, it runs 11 states. 11 states. Yeah.
Speaking of Georgia, I think I would be remiss if I didn't ask you a question. We had to peel the onion a little while because the last show that we had, I lost my mind. That was right after the Representative Park Cannon was escorted from the door, right? What's your take on that bullshit, Joy? What's your take?
Oh my gosh. So even as you guys were, I was in the back room, Vaughn put me in the green room or whatever.
She was there the whole show, the whole entire show.
In the green room, ain't nothing to drink in the green room. Like, I was here by myself. I had fun out there, and people like the lady in the green room said she got to go to the bathroom. So yeah, Georgia. So I just moved back to New York in the hot heat of everything going on. So my dad mail kept coming and following me to my parents' house. He was like, "Who's this Ossoff guy? They keep sending you a flyer of what's going on?"
Shout out to Uncle Howard.
Yeah, so apparently, of course they were like, "Get the vote." I was like, "No, I ain't gonna touch that because I want to make sure y'all are good. Nobody gonna say somewhere I was here and that happened there." Mm-hmm. So, to see this unfolding, sometimes there's two reactions. You almost feel like, I'm glad I got out of there just in time. Meanwhile, you're running into a different fire, right? Mm-hmm. This fight is not for us to feel like we just made it out of some, we just made it out, because we haven't. Because if anybody's still in, we all in.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Say that again, please. Please. People need to hear that, Yeah.
So, I'm following what's known as the Ubuntu concept. If your plight is my plight, and your celebration in life is also my celebration in life. So we ain't out of Georgia. I don't care what states we live in. That's a state of mind. That's a state of mind. And I think, my son, it's been very interesting listening to him, especially as Black men navigating all these spaces that, you just take it for granted. You feel happy that your kid makes it to being 18 and nothing happened to him.
As a Black woman, yes.
21, oh Lord, he made it to 21. Mm-hmm. 25, oh Lord, he made it, and that should not be. Mm-hmm. But the devastation and the ripping and the tearing us from the inside out is for all of us. So something he's been expressing to me and we've been talking about it's real, it's PTSD, So what starts happening to Black and brown people, especially Black men, if they're in a constant cycle of school trouble, it's then attached to some kind of, you got to go to court. You going to court because you went to the bathroom too many times, or you didn't ask because you sharpened your pencil. Yeah, there's courts that are connected to our kids being put in those systems, depending on where we live. So we lived in Georgia. And if you're not careful, it is destroying Black families because you start attacking each other. And they sit back after But anyway, all that, I'm saying that to say that kind of wearing on you over time. How do we keep sustaining each other and then showing each other, the fight is not yours alone. So, always trying to encourage, just trying to, keep not just my kids encouraged, but all kids, because I've worked with kids all my life. Again, my conversation is always who they are 10 years from now. Who are you 10 years from now? Yeah. I don't think I answered that question, but yeah.
When you talk about the PTSD that's suffered by Black men and us as a community, it is playing out on live television during the George Floyd trial.
Yeah.
People are breaking down. I mean, grown men are just weeping on the stand. And yes, because of what they witnessed, but also because of lifetime and lifetimes in their DNA. This thing, this public lynching, it's just impacting us in a particular way. I think not only us though, it's terrible. Let me just ask you if your Diggable, where did you get the name, first of all? Diggable Library. Where did that come from?
So I started initially with, there's a lot of things I started with. People like, everybody gonna know what that is. I was like, no, it's the core of 3 no, because it's the core of yourself. It's the core of what you need to live, and it's the core of your creator, and that's a scripture, core of 3 no, but it's usually used for people getting married, the band of, and then by some people are like, yeah, you ain't. People don't go to the library as it is, and you doing that, yeah. I don't think nobody gonna really pay you any attention with that one. So I said, okay, I'll just name it the Digital Library Lounge. And they have the digital library, and lounge to me, I kind of was feeling like I gotta make this thing sexy. I gotta make people feel like they came into the smoke room and
make it sexy.
I want to make smart sexy again. I want. Have to be sexy.
I like that. Make smart sexy again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Make it all sexy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm also. I mean, I'm from. I feel like I touch on a lot of musical generations and just thought processes, and even though that word diggable is very can be very 70s, and then at the same time people get it because it's hippifying it. It's almost like, what is this? Is it supposed to be cool? Let me check it out. And then of course I don't want to, because I'll do things and I'll be working on the space and trying to create it and be like, I don't have this skill, but I'm gonna give it my best. And that's where I've realized that, finding language so that people understand that they belong in those spaces. So that's what I ultimately am still working on the site, not just the site, I'm trying to work on a podcast. JaVonne, I'll talk to you later. So doing all those other pieces so that I can guide people in, because I'm really here to show you how to pimp your library card. So I'm always telling people, get a library. Card, I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna get some things, and you'll be like, "Really, Joy? I don't need all of this." It's like, no, we just get it. It's my son came to me earlier. He was like, "Mom, so we're not gonna buy Rosetta Stone. You're really making me use the site on the library thing of yours, the lingo language." Just I said, "Yep, they got 80 languages." You up for Japanese, and I'm taking Swahili. That is what we're doing. But I just say that to say, people don't know. And so, and the people there are a lot of people who hear and they do know. And that's the thing. We know things and we don't know that that's a shareable thing. Like, you just take it for granted. That's a very shareable thing. So it's my excitement that I'll be able to put a voice on it, not just a voice, but be able to find some rock star librarians, and they out there. It's a bunch of them. As a matter of fact, 3 things I was going to mention when I first jumped on the air. Yes, Shaka Khan. Everybody got a Shaka Khan story. I ain't gonna tell mine until I get my own show. That's first. Shaka Khan. It's not the same as JaVonne's story.
Wait.
Uh-oh.
Okay, say your 2 and 3, and then we're gonna
Okay,
go
let me do
to number 1 though. Go ahead.
one. Like, oh, legalize marijuana in New York. I was like, hey, well, I'm in Arizona. And if you know anything about, well, see, I don't know nothing really about it. And until my son said, Mom, you want to taste this? I was like, why? Why am I tasting this? Well, is it a drink? Because I want a drink. Yeah, it's a drink, Mom.
When you did
And I was like, no, I'm going to this other place. You shouldn't have given me this. It was nothing I could do about it because I'm in Arizona and it's very, you know. I think the whole city is pumped with some stuff. That's the thing. The other piece was you talked about, what's going to happen? Reparations. That's what it was, right? Reparations. And I kept thinking how there was a story. Well, Evanston, Illinois started to really, jump on this whole, like they passed the law and people being given money for new homes or toward buy a home. And the money that they're using is the taxing money from marijuana for reparations. That's really where the conversation. I got excited about that because there was a librarian who there's a story around her and her being ousted out of her position, and she was referred to was the cranky librarian, and she was there at the Evanston Public Library. But that's just a geeky thing of mine. Like, who else getting kicked out of there? Not kicked out, but who else is being allowed to be free? Because there's a freeing when you're detached from the root of
Is it okay to do rapid fire with her now, JaVonne? Because I want to do it, and we're being cued to do it. So that's a wonderful thing right there.
Yes, whatever that is. Yes. Okay, I'm nervous. Go.
Black people.
Amazing.
Love.
Romantic.
Food.
Tastes so good. Oh my God.
Champagne.
Popping bottles? I don't know.
Community.
Support.
Sex.
I never get any. And I ain't had none. So I'm sorry.
You up next, JaVonne. Tech.
All right.
I'm going to give you the number of months, but I'm celibate at this moment.
You know,
that's a subject, Terez. You didn't remind me.
That's why your skin's so clear.
Because I ain't, yeah.
That word is very close to celebrate. So, you know,
come on.
There you go. There you go. So, music.
Mondays.
Education.
Professor.
Family.
Crazy.
Or, enthusiastic.
Enthusiastic. Me? I don't know.
Shaka Khan.
Come on, I feel for you. I think I love you.
She muted my mic on purpose.
Yeah.
I did.
Why Monifa messes? Would she be in the game too?
Did you want to contribute to at rapid fire?
Come on, Monifa, do it.
No,
okay.
she said she didn't. She said she didn't. That's why.
Okay, you ready?
Give me some good ones.
All right, I gotta think of the words and shit. Y'all be on the spot. I'm on the spot with you, Salisha. Okay. Organic.
Food.
Sex.
I don't get any.
Said that one already. Got to do another one.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry. I was helping somebody. Okay, damn.
We can say it again. I don't get any.
She still ain't getting none since the last time she was asking.
Okay. Or should I say drought? Okay.
Right. Love.
Said that one. Say another one.
What was I? Damn. The dude came in and threw me off. Okay. Exercise.
Daily.
Amen. Future.
Married. Hopefully one day.
Children.
They're cute. They're cute, right? They're cute.
Okay. I got one more.
One more.
Okay. You.
Resilient.
Hey.
Come on, you see me tied into the book.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you so much for that. Tell everybody how they can follow you, find you, and stalk you like I do.
Well, don't be like JaVonne, because that's scary. But thank you guys for having me on your show. I love it. I want to come back because, of course, you know, I love you guys.
All right, look. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. I'm following you already. Okay.
Yeah, I try to pretend like I'm somebody else being me, but like, you know, like you make a dummy account, but I'm a dummy in the account. It doesn't matter.
Okay, JaVonne, let me find out you crazy. What's going on?
So
what's your name, boo? What's your name, boo? Down to the Facebook.